Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. Whew. We barely made it.
I just slid into my seat.
Oh, boy.
We're here.
Yabba, yabba, dabba. It's a good thing the studio's not very big or somebody'd have been late. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are very glad that you are here. As you know, probably, possibly, if not, I'm going to tell you about it anyway. We took a week off from live broadcasting last week and celebrated Thanksgiving with the regular folks. I mean, it's just not our fault that Thanksgiving seems to fall every year on show night.
I'm telling
you. It's not, not bad enough that we have to contend with things like the Not For Long Football League. And
that's a good one.
That's what NFL stands for, doesn't it?
You could buy me.
It's not for long.
I like that.
That's a good one.
And an occasional outburst from a local basketball team, et cetera, et cetera. So then we have to start, continuing with Turkey Day. Who'd have thought? We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram. We're just out there, a whole bunch of places that most of which, to tell you the truth, we don't follow, but occasionally we'll get some interest from there. Our primary point that we're moving to is our blog, the DocOwenShow.com blog, and Uncle Bocce's doing a good job of building that, and probably going to do a better job and get some input from the rest of us coming up after the first of the year. So, we'll start creating some archives out there and putting some information. But for right now, one of the key elements to it, as we tested how it would go, was as Bocce did his weekly historical, what we call his Bocce Brief, historical information, we can only get about 8 to 10 minutes worth of airtime out of several hours worth of research. So he puts all of the research out there. Mm-hmm. If you want to know more about the topic or find something interesting, or want to get links to this or to that, then go out to the DocOwenShow.com blog and look up the information. Right, that's a good place. It's a good jumping off spot. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And we keep it rather focused on. We have kept it rather focused ever since we started. I don't know, 2 years ago or something like that. On United States history. We spent a lot of time talking about the United States history before we became the United States. Mm-hmm. That was very intentional because it's not covered well elsewhere. And now we're going through a series of looking back on former presidents and their election process. And what that brought to mind, just to tell you, was the consistent, constant, and apparently never-ending pushback we're getting against the current president. Mm-hmm. And it might be a good time to say, repeat after me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
President Donald J. Trump. So,
that's true.
Quite all right. So we thought that rather extraordinary. And so we went back into history to see if we're correct. Because even Uncle Bocce is not as old as some of the presidents that we've had. We're about to catch up. We're almost there. We're like on number 7. So, in just a few more presidents, Bocce will have had tea with them probably. We also have free apps for both the Android and the iPhone platforms. Go out to your store and look up Doc Owen Show. Download the app. You'll have access to the show live, as well as a podcast, as well as all of our historical information. Now I've got to rewind. I'm joined in the studio by
I'm sure fine.
And
Uncle Bocce.
Okay, I'm not going to put you through all that other part, but that's what I should have done in the first place. So I had to sort of rewind the tape and get back to the top of it.
There you go.
All right. We've got a good show for you tonight. Obviously, I hope it's obvious. We are in good humor. It is the holiday season. And And that is important. It's important for any number of reasons, and we all, I think, have our own. And if you cannot get into the joy and the blessing and the forgiving and all of the things that go with this time of the year, please do, work harder at it. It's not that hard. There's a lot of people out there willing to help you. And, I just think it's very important to kind of,
chill.
But you know what? I think, too, to add to that is if you do it now, then you create good habits that you can continue on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not once a year. This is
Right.
This is when it comes to a peak.
Mhm.
This is when we see people acting extraordinarily forgiving, or acting. And unfortunately, it's extraordinary. I mean, it's like, as I had a preacher tell me one time, that church is usually filled with hypocrites.
Mhm. So I've heard.
Especially on Christmas and Easter. Right?
Well,
Oh,
yeah. So I mean,
That's true.
but still, you got to do your best. And this is the first. Well, I would say this is the second year that you're going to hear a lot of Merry Christmas
Mhm.
when you go to the malls, when you go
Yep.
to the stores, when you
Yep.
go wherever you go, your
Mhm.
workplace, etc. We noticed the change last year,
That's right.
just
Well,
after the election of President
Mhm.
Donald J. Trump, prior to inauguration, and I got a feeling it's going to be even stronger this year. And the fun part about it is, at my day job, I have the opportunity to interact with a lot of federal government employees, and I am hearing a lot of Merry Christmas coming out of them, which is really, really
That's great.
cool.
That's
And
That's
you
a
can
good thing,
you can see like the grin on their face,
yeah.
like this has all been lifted and we're gonna get back to normal.
That's
They
right.
don't, not a word is said.
No,
You know what I'm
no.
saying? We're still politically correct with each other, etc., and sort of agnostic. We don't. That's not part of what I do. But you can feel it in their handshake. You can see it in their face, and they just
Absolutely.
they are.
I see it every day.
Thanksgiving's barely over, and they're already starting to say it.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
I've heard
So,
that. Mhm.
It-
Yeah,
it's,
that's true.
It's out there.
Mhm.
Our show. We are going to continue delving into a local tourist site, as well as a world-renowned historical site, the Alamo. We're going to continue to drive out a little bit of history about it. We may talk about some current events. Quite frankly, about the only thing that I see in current events are the same things that I saw growing up back in the 1950s,
Mhm.
and that's called scandalous, sex scandals.
Yeah.
The only thing is, it's moved from California in the name of Hollywood back in the 50s. It has now moved to Washington, D.C. But there is absolutely, the stories still look the same.
Mhm.
The players are different.
Yes.
You know,
And the media, don't forget.
how could I forget?
Yeah.
That's exactly why we're here.
Yeah.
So
I liked it.
that'll be the gamut of tonight's show. We always start this show in a very, very traditional manner once we've gotten through all this kind of lead-in, spirit-building, attitude adjustment phase. And that is, Ms. Surefire starts off with an inspirational quote. Uncle Bocce gives us this day in history, and then I close out the threesome after Bocce knocks his mic off the desk with a leadership quote or two. With that, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote, I kind of flipped to another website. This one is.
I was just learning how to spell
How to
Brady.
spell Brady. How are you going to switch it on us?
Yes,
All right, what
keep
was
you
that?
on your toes.
I even went to Brady this week.
But tonight's quote comes from www.dictionary.com.
Okay. Another good source.
And it's from a man by the name.
Dictionary.
Excuse me.
She didn't.
Did somebody forget that I have a graduate degree?
She didn't spell dictionary.
Oh,
Go. Give us the
You.
quote. Give us the quote.
okay. From a man by the name of Steve Maraboli. I
Okay.
might have jacked that up.
Okay.
I apologize, sir, if I mispronounced your name. And he is a life-changing speaker, behavioral scientist, and author. And his quote is, "Forget yesterday. It has already forgotten you. Don't sweat tomorrow you haven't even met. Instead, open your eyes and your heart to a truly precious gift today," or as other people say, the present.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
It puts it in the first person. I mean, it brings it into reality. That's pretty cool. Yesterday's already forgotten you. You haven't met tomorrow yet.
Yeah.
So say hello today.
Exactly. That's awesome. I like that.
Good job.
That's really good.
So what happened, sir?
Nothing.
Okay.
I don't have anything for this day.
I see. Got it.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I can fill the void.
Good.
Really? Nothing happened. Too close to Thanksgiving.
I guess.
Everybody's still. What's the name of that stuff that's in turkey? What's the
stuffing?
No.
Oh, the
That's chemical.
drumeline.
Yeah.
Tremoline, or I don't know. Something.
Yeah. Now, just as soon as you said it, I forgot it.
Well, blurt it out when I think of it. Okay.
Yeah.
The leadership quote for tonight. First of all, I got to tell you, I want to know who. If I don't know the author that said the quote, I look them up. Right.
Right.
Okay. So I got to Wikipedia, which is a real good source for stuff like that. And by the way, right now Wikipedia is in their annual giving campaign.
Oh, yeah.
That is the only not-for-profit website in the top 10 in the world. They've been not-for-profit since the get-go. And so if you will just simply log into Wikipedia tonight, you'll see a banner across the top asking you for money. And I highly encourage it. I just contributed. So this was not a free trip to Wikipedia for me. Yes, they normally are. But I encourage you to do that because they really rely upon that. So the quote tonight that I have is from a fellow by the name of William Lloyd George. Okay? The doctor on the show did not know who that was, so I looked him up. And lo and behold, William Lloyd George is the 3rd Viscount Tenby. Now that's very informative.
Yeah.
And this is just to show you that when you ask for the English version of Wikipedia, it may not be American English. Listen to this. William Lloyd George, 3rd Viscount Tenby, JP, born 7 June 27, is a British peer and former army officer. Tenby was elected one of the initial 90 hereditary peers to remain in the House of Lords after the passing of the House of Lords Act 1999 until his retirement in 2015. Tenby is the son. Notice they're calling him Tenby. He does not go, but he's the 3rd Viscount Tenby, so he's Tenby. He's not William Lord George. Is the son of William Lord George, 1st Viscount Tenby, and Edna Gwenfern Jones. His father was a national. I just got the biggest kick. I read like 3 paragraphs and knew absolutely no more than I did when I looked them up. And it's all supposed to be in English. Here's his motto. Iguir in urban ibid. Right?
That's Latin.
I got it.
No, I don't think so. You think so? Why? No. I think it's Welsh. You think it's that? I think it's Welsh. It says the truth against the world. Anyway, I got, yes ma'am. Who's on the line?
Our friend
Ed is back.
and he has the word that that turkey that makes you sleepy, that
It
ingredient.
starts with a T.
Yeah, tryptophan.
What?
Tryptophan.
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 Yes.
That's it. Tryptophan.
That's it. Thanks, Ed.
Good job, Ed. Go back to sleep.
No, he's up.
He's up in the air? Okay. So anyway, I got so enamored with who he was. Here's his quote. And I like this. Obviously, I wouldn't have picked it. Don't be afraid to take a big step if one is indicated. You cannot cross a chasm in 2 small jumps.
That's true.
Aha!
I like it.
Huh?
Very
unless
apropos.
you're Superman or Wonder Woman, maybe. Or, I don't know. Go ahead.
The probability is better to take one big jump.
That's what
Probability.
Because if you
of
get
success.
2, then you might not get the second.
Not get that second jump.
You'd be like, oh.
Parkour sports guys.
Ask the Roadrunner.
The road
He was always going out off the path. Straight down. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Uncle Bocce, it is now time for Bocce's brief. Let's talk about a president or two.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we might just do 2 tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to finish off with Martin Van Buren,
Okay?
the Dutchman.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about his legacy. And I think
Little reminder about, just a pinch, like 30 seconds to a minute of, because a lot of people may have forgotten this was 2 weeks ago when we told them the first half of Van Buren.
Sure.
So just a little pitch of, he was the Dutchman. Was he a nice guy? Was he a bad guy? Tall, short?
No, he was a good person.
Yep.
He was a lousy president, which I'll get into here,
Right.
because he has other legacy things that are noteworthy. He did not get along with Congress at all.
Right.
Okay, so we'll go over that a little bit
Okay.
more.
All right. But he went down as a not too good president.
Right. Most historians, in fact, really give him
Because he
an
didn't,
F on
didn't
being
accomplish
president.
much.
Yes. The only problem with that analysis is that they don't take into consideration the refusal of the Congress to get into his agenda. He had a good agenda.
Part of the job.
See, that's where it's going. I know.
Okay.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So they judged him lacking. However, they give him high marks for the development of the American political system.
Yeah. Now I remember.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Jackson, they call him the father of the Democratic Party. Well,
It was really Van Buren working behind the scenes.
yeah, exactly.
As Jackson's vice president.
Formed around Jackson.
Right.
And then Martin Van Buren came in and he organized it.
And he was Jackson's VP.
He was Jackson.
He was Jackson's Pence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a lot of historians consider him one of the most important politicians in American history. Politician.
I understand. Well, that's
Up to now, with the exception of maybe Andrew Jackson, our presidents were pretty much statesmen.
yeah.
They were statesmen. They were not really politicians, even though they had political careers, but they weren't
No, there
politicians.
is a very
There's a
distinct difference.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and those of us who remember or read about or whatever statesman type politicians long for their return. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now there were many other statesmen that is of the age, but Van Buren, he devoted himself to the perfection of party politics,
Okay.
grounded in principle. My question there is, which principles? And maintained by discipline. That's where he was going. Okay. Now, Andrew Jackson, of course, was the symbol of political renaissance because really things changed when Jackson got into office.
Right.
Okay, the political scene just completely changed. But Martin Van Buren was its chief architect,
Okay.
put it that way, and he was the prime beneficiary of it. He was the first professional politician to become president. Okay.
Okay.
Because Jackson was not a politician.
No.
He was a military guy.
Right.
Okay. Now, the Democratic Party, when he took office, was just beset by factionalism, by vicious infighting, and lack of organizational and ideological unity. They were a mess.
Right.
They just weren't doing very good.
Much like they are today.
So critics focus on his party building role, and but they did, even on that, they called him cynical, manipulative, and power hungry politician.
Well, I tell you what I got was, I am now reminded of the term redundant.
Okay.
You need not add politician at the end of that statement. Say it again.
You're right.
Say those
It was
three words.
cynical, manipulative, and power hungry. Yes.
Duh.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, he claimed himself to be a politician. Why would anybody be surprised that he was that way?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so here's the principles that Van Buren held.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're gonna love this because he could be president today on the conservative ticket.
Nice.
Here's what he was all about. Kind of like the Jeffersonian, Jacksonian thinking. The preeminence of state and local concerns. That's one. The wisdom of limiting the power of the central government.
Okay.
And the importance of protecting Americans from government and public institutions.
And he was a Democrat?
And he was a Democrat.
Mm.
So something, just rattles my cage here. It doesn't quite click. If he was all of these, this is what he believed in. Well, anyway, let's move on.
We need to talk to Dinesh.
Yeah. He'd probably have all this down.
WFA on Democrats. Go ahead.
And I think I mentioned this before. There was what was happening is in New York there was something called the Albany Regency, and it was nothing more than a political machine. The first time, and it happened in Virginia too. I forget what the Virginia people were called, but it depended on, it had based all its power on widespread correspondence, the internet, network that included local committees, state office holders, and an aggressive newspaper called the Albany Argus. You see the construction here?
Wow. And this was when?
This was in 1840.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was 1836 actually.
Right.
So
right,
1840.
Mm.
So yeah, the name of that newspaper was the Albany Argus. Argus.
Right.
And they had the similar thing in Virginia, but I don't have that note here. He believed that states should build and finance internal improvements. In other words, the federal government should not be involved in building roads and canals and all. It should be the states.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, it is. It is. So this is all ringing true to people like us. He wanted also to regulate the nation's currency and improve the conditions for working men under state, not federal regulation.
Of course.
Okay?
Right.
So he had the problem of facing a severe depression, which was brought about by Jackson's policies with the banks. Okay? He proposed an independent treasury system which would have gotten them out of the depression and would have set things on a better economic road, but he did not have the political clout to get Congress to go along with him. So, and that, in a nutshell, is probably, or is, what caused him to lose the election in 1840.
Right.
Okay, because they
Couldn't
just
get it done.
right,
Couldn't
because
get it done.
Right. So now
Okay.
he did have one slave. His father had 6. He had one slave, but the slave ran away. His name was Tom.
You know why?
Yeah.
Why
He
ran
wanted to
away?
be a slave.
No.
What?
He was all by himself.
Oh, okay.
He was lonely.
Yeah.
Now, he
that
tried.
makes sense.
This is a contradiction here too. He tried to sell him, but the terms did not, and so Tom remained free. He remained free. But later in life, Van Buren belonged to something called the Free Soil Party, which was opposed to expansion of slavery into the Western territories. So even there, but he did not want to come out and be an abolitionist, though. Okay?
Right.
Yeah, he did not want to do that. Not yet, anyway.
Okay.
Here's one quote that I think summarizes some of the thinking. He said, "There is a power in public opinion in this country, and there is still today, okay? And I thank God for it, for it is the most honest and best of all powers. People, we have the power," and this is what he's saying here, "which will not tolerate an incompetent or unworthy man to hold in his weak or wicked hands the lives and fortunes of fellow citizens." What a statement.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it applies today as well as it did back then.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely, it really does.
Will it fit in a tweet?
I don't know. Well, they've extended the tweets.
That's true. That I
So
I know, it's no fun anymore.
Okay, so unless there's some
Compare that.
questions, that's Martin Van Buren.
Okay. All right.
You still want to do William Henry Harrison?
1836 to 1840.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what I know. All I knew was that William Harrison, the fellow that won in 1840, served very briefly. That much I remember, but I didn't know why. So I'm thinking for as short as he was the president, it won't take a lot of time.
No, it won't. It won't. We'll get through this really quickly.
Yeah,
Shall we go for it?
Yeah, he was elected and he died. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, William Henry Harrison. He was nicknamed Old Granny, and that's something that his deriders called him because they wanted to picture him as, ancient and out of touch. That's what they were trying to picture him, or character assassination, whatever. He was a part of the Whig Party, which at some point in time we'll find out what they stood for. But basically, the Whig Party was more of a centralized government, more like an Alexander Hamilton type.
Right.
Now, he was from Ohio. He was 5'8". He was Episcopal. He was born in Virginia, however. And now, about his death, he died on April 4th, 1841. He was inaugurated on March 4th, 1841.
30 days. 30.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was 68 years old.
Oh.
And his resting place is in Ohio. He had 8 children.
Well, but you're not answering the same thing that I asked you earlier.
Yeah.
He delivered his inaugural address.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
you get it.
No, that's fine.
No,
that's
go
fine.
ahead. I don't.
Yeah.
But I know the answer.
So, yeah. He had a couple of different offices before that. He was Secretary of Northwest Territory, Territorial Delegate to Congress, Territorial Governor of Indiana, U.S. Congressman, U.S. Senator, and Minister to Columbia. And his salary was $25,000, which today is $630,000. Yep.
Right.
And his wife's name was Anna, by the way.
With one in?
Huh? No, I think hers was 2 ends.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
Not
Anna.
disqualified.
Yeah, it was 2 ends. Okay. Now, he won in what I would consider a landslide against Martin Van Buren. William Henry Harrison got 234 electoral votes out of 294.
That's pretty strong.
Which left only 60 for Martin Van Buren.
That's pretty strong.
So he was a very well liked person.
Especially because Van Buren was the incumbent, so he was very unliked.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And he didn't add anything to the cabinet. It was the same 6 positions, and he had no judges or anything.
They barely had time to figure out where to put his shoes.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, his wife was ill when he was inaugurated.
Yeah.
So she wasn't there.
Which is now that answers a major question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so tell the audience how he got what happened.
What
And I'll
happened
explain
was,
my statement.
What happened was he had this long inaugural address. I printed it out. It was like 12 pages.
Oh my
And
God.
I think it took him 3 hours to deliver it in freezing cold weather without protection. Okay?
No top coat,
So,
no hat.
Oh
no,
my gosh.
no, he stood up there, just kept on going. So, in a few weeks, he developed a cold,
Yep.
okay, which turned into pneumonia.
Right.
And back then, that was a sign of death. And so he died. He literally died of pneumonia.
You know why? Because she was ill when he delivered that speech, or she would not have let him go out like that. I can hear him now.
That's
William, put on your coat.
And your hat and your gloves. What's wrong with you?
His wife was not there to tell him what to do.
That's right.
Oh, that's
It's-
too bad.
The
Yeah,
other
so,
part of the team was at home.
Right.
yeah,
That's true.
you're absolutely right. Women
That's true.
do take care of their men.
Had something to do with it.
Yeah.
The
So
good
basically, that's really William Henry Harrison, the ninth president of the United States.
Now you see it, now you don't.
And that's it.
Well,
That's it. So next week, his vice president will talk about John Tyler, who became president
well, yeah,
and finished out
And he
his
lived.
term.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, good.
Okay,
Good
so
job.
that's it.
Who are you?
I am Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI at DuckDoneShow.com.
Yay! Thank you, Uncle Bachi.
Yeah.
Good job.
Any of you have interesting articles that you'd like us to post, please send them to me.
Yeah.
We'll get them out there.
Interesting historical articles. Or just,
Oh yeah,
right?
right. 'Cause
Yeah,
not-
little-
you're gonna be getting there.
Tidbits of information.
Yeah,
Little known stuff that maybe we didn't run across. Or,
absolutely.
and, your history teacher taught it to you when you were in the 6th grade and you've never forgotten it because it was so unique. Before we dive into the rest of the show, let's take a little 30-second break so I can get a sip of water, and we'll play the intro upbeat zippity doo-dah tune, and we will be right back. Howdy, folks. Welcome back. Thanks for allowing us to take that little 30-second break. We don't do advertising, so we just got to sneak in a little jingle every once in a while. Before we go into the bulk of the show, or the rest of the show, I would call it, the main theme of the show, which is for tonight and maybe a couple more, but because of holiday schedules, things get dotted around. We're still talking about the Alamo. Right, but back to, in general, what this time of the year is. It is very important for Christians. I mean, that's what this is. Just a real important time of year, and so what happens is it winds up bringing out the best in some people and the worst in some people.
Yes.
We have a lot of non-Christians, etc., etc. I happened to be standing out on the porch this evening and thought of a phrase that I would like to deliver as a message for all of those folks that think that their rights are being violated by the Christian nature of this country. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of people that push back and they're offended, or they don't want us to serve pork, or, which, by the way, there was a Canadian mayor that when the local Muslim community demanded that they quit serving pork in the high school, wrote them a letter that, in no uncertain terms, told them what to do. But she also started a campaign that said, "Put more pork on your fork."
That's a good one.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But my whole theme with anything having to do with that has always been about assimilation.
Yes, sir.
This is the United States. absolute, we are a country of immigrants, but we are a country of assimilated immigrants, and our immigrants become Americans,
Right.
which is a way of life that we are very proud of, and we have every reason to be proud of. Perfect? No.
No,
But
because humans are not perfect.
correct.
Sure.
But proud of adjustments that we've made, and we will continue to make.
Absolutely.
So I would offer this up as a phrase you might want to remember, write down, or replay on occasion. If you assimilate, then I cannot violate.
There you go.
That's a good one.
Because
That's
you're one of us.
You're
That's
one
right.
of us. You're one of the American family.
So, there. That's my thought for the day.
Good for you.
That's a good one.
Let's talk about the Alamo.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've gone through a little bit about the fact that it's not what everybody thought it was, and we've also all of this started because they're trying to redo it. They're trying to do what they call reimagine it.
Yes.
There's some New World Order, all one big government sort of folks that want the world to be run by the United Nations and not our independent countries. And certainly not like by an independent state or Republic of Texas as we are known. All right? So they're trying to reimagine the Alamo and wipe out certain portions of history in the process. And that's what called the Doc Owens Show to order to at least put some truth out there. We know that, first of all, it was held by the Mexican government before we took it, and then it became a rally point for our pushback, Texian as they were called at the time, pushback against the Mexican government that was trying to instill the same tyrannical version of federal centralized government that most of these Texians had fled from, what they felt like was happening in Washington, D.C. All right? So it all culminated in a battle called the Battle of the Alamo, which was, when was it? 1836. I've forgotten exact, somewhere February the 23rd through March the 6th. All right? And just, all of this information is out there. I'm just going to try to give it to you to try to paint the appropriate picture and a way of looking at it. There were 1,800 Mexican soldiers. I mean, well-dressed, well-trained, well-armed, well-disciplined. 1,800 Mexican soldiers completely surrounded the Alamo. And I know if you've never visited the Alamo, your mental vision of the Alamo is huge. It's a big place. It's not. It is not at all. So what I'm saying.
In fact, found that out. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
That must have been before my time.
Or was it George?
And the Texians numbered somewhere between, it varied between 185 and 260 people.
And why did they come here? Why did they come to Texas?
They came to Texas for free land, and they came to Texas because the Mexican government promised them that they wouldn't have to put up with the federal government. It would take them pretty much out of concerns about a civil war that were coming up. In other words, come across the river, come over here to Texas. We'll give you all the land that you want, and we'll leave you alone. Just come inhabit our northern portions of our country, which this was northern Mexico.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's exactly why they came here.
Okay.
And then when the Mexican decided,
to renege.
yeah, we lied. We're going to tax you. We're going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you this and that. The Texians decided that they were through running. They were going to stand and fight. That this was, good country. So it became a real rally point for the United States. Period. I mean, remember the Alamo is a phrase that I would venture a guess most Americans know.
Yeah.
They may not know what it means.
Yeah.
Truly what it means, but they know what the deal is. So
Kind of like stand up for what you believe in, kind of thing.
it's exactly what it is. Yeah. Make a stand. So let me give you. I'm going to give you top 10, the top 10 things that everyone should know about the Alamo. I'm going to venture a guess the three of us probably know all 10 of these.
Oh, okay.
But realize that we are lucky enough to be broadcast worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody's going to know these, right?
Right.
And the objective here is not to take things for granted. The Alamo was the first mission in the San Antonio region, and its original name, Mission San Antonio de Valero.
Mm-hmm.
Sound familiar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. General Sam Houston thought that holding San Antonio, the city, was a grand waste of time, and he actually sent James Bowie to destroy the Alamo. However, Bowie and Travis ignored the orders and hunkered behind the fort's defenses. Okay? So there was some contention in there that, it was a waste of time. We got bigger fish to fry. And the guys in the Alamo said, nonsense, we're hanging tough.
Good for them.
The numbers for the Alamo are skewed. Some estimates for Mexican forces range between 1,800 and 6,000 Army members. Basically, that means that there is little concrete factual information behind all the estimates, from casualties to defenders. And so when you hear numbers batted around, there's always going to be somebody that's going to, push back on them.
Mm-hmm.
We have no way of knowing. Is what it amounts to. A few months following the devastating loss of the Alamo, Houston and his 800 Texans defeated Santa Anna's Mexican army near San Jacinto, leading directly to their independence. So we followed Santa Anna to San Jacinto, Texas. You can Google that. It's southeast of Houston in a real flat, plain sort of area. All right? And the one thing that they did do is it was like a pre-dawn strike. It was before Santa Anna and his men got up, and it was pre-dawn. These 800 Texians came screaming across this flat prairie on horseback and running, hollering, "Remember the
Alamo." Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
The Texas General Land Office has custody of the grounds. That's the bone of contention right now.
That is.
It was forever owned and managed by the Daughters of the Texas Revolution. Is that right?
I
Or
thought
the Daughters
that
of
was the Republic.
Or the Republic of
Daughters of the
Texas?
Republic?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's
Okay.
not
The
no
Republic.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Daughters of the Republic.
Fabulous job.
They did a fabulous job. It was extremely expensive, and it still is, to maintain an old edifice and operate it as a tourist attraction, et cetera, purely based on the revenues that you generate. And they always went at it as they should. They went at it as a not-for-profit, of course, and they gave an awful lot of stuff away that they probably could have charged for. But anyway, it got turned over to the Texas General Land Office. Now, to those of you not from Texas, and a lot of you from Texas, might say that that's a great idea. Well, it is, if you got the right person running the Texas General Land Office. That's an elected office. Okay? We recently elected our first Mexican land office commissioner. Think about that, folks. What did we just do? We turned the Alamo over to the Texas Land Commission, and then the citizens elected the first Mexican to run the land office that's now in charge of the Alamo. How much better can I connect the dots for you? So why would we do that? The Texas Land Commissioner's name is George P. as in Papa Bush. So on the local popularity and stupidity of the voters, we elected, and the reason that George P. Bush is a Mexican is because his mother is a Mexican national. Okay, so his father's not, but his mama is.
Yeah.
When I put these dots together, my head started to explode. Okay, let's move on because we're going to come back to that. Now you know why, maybe you don't. You should start to understand why locals, right-thinking individuals are upset about all this. Because, they're coming at this with millions and millions and millions of dollars against, it's the same story. It's 6,000 Mexican soldiers against 150 people standing inside the Alamo saying, no, you're not. Draw the picture. Yeah. Except they're not Mexican soldiers, they're millionaire-funded architects and politicians and, councilmen, and just go right down the list. They might as well be Mexican soldiers standing out in front with muskets.
That's right.
In my view. The defenders of the Alamo had no idea that Texas declared its independence from Mexico on March the 2nd, 1836. Go back to the dates for the Alamo. When was it over? March the 3rd? Is that right?
I think, yeah.
March the 6th. So a few days earlier, Texas had declared its independence while the fighting was raging, literally. The fight for the Alamo began on the 23rd, and the fort finally fell. Oh, that's right. I just had to read the next sentence. Duh. No one can truly say what happened to Davy Crockett. I know what happened to Davy. He wouldn't have had making business.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought he was the fiddler at Mamacita's. Oh, okay, never mind.
I need to get out more.
You mean doing enough already?
Some eyewitnesses claim he died during the battle, while some claim he was executed at the hands of Santa Anna. These mixed accounts have made for some good urban legends. Either way, he died. 100%. That was one of the things that really aggravated the Texans, was because when Santa Anna came in, he not only massacred every man, woman, and child in the Alamo, he then piled them all up and burned them.
Wow.
Pissed us off.
Tyranny.
Oh, he was ruthless. The saying, the Remember the Alamo, became the battle cry of the Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1848, about 10 years following the Alamo's original destruction as a rally call to incite deep-seated emotions. Yes, sir.
I just want to make one point before you get off that.
Yes, sir.
Since we're talking about the presidents,
Yes.
President Andrew Jackson actually refused to allow Texas to become part of the United States in 1836.
Right. All at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that out.
We talked about that 3 or 4 weeks ago
we did. Yeah,
when we were just starting into the Alamo, and you were talking about Jackson's president.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep. And we probably, it might be fun to know why. To know, I guarantee you somewhere in some, it's not going to be in any short story or anything.
No, but it had to do with sectionalism. At least that was his excuse.
Remember, he made a lot of money dividing it up and pushing it out as an independent.
Yep.
In other words, he was the president, but he still was an independent operator.
Yes.
Out on the edges of the United States, right? So it's got to have something to do with the fact that he didn't own any of Texas.
Could be, and that's a good thought.
He didn't. He had no skin in the game to help us become part of the country, because it wasn't going to enrich him if he could use those same funds for the United States to buy land that he did own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
I don't know it to be true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying a story of a logical progression.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, isn't it really strange that DFW Airport is sitting on a old piece of junk land that Lady Bird Johnson used to own?
How I did not know that.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
It was totally worthless. But the feds put in one of the largest regional airports in the territory, in the country,
Yeah.
when Johnson was president. Oh, and by the way, my wife's got a little piece of land down there y'all might want to take a look at.
There you go. Bingo.
That's how it happens. And I wouldn't be suspect at all if that's why we weren't.
Could be.
More, and they're all dead. We can't ask them.
That's right.
More than one battle was fought at the Alamo. So this is good. The Battle of the Alamo in 1861 was fought following Texas secession from the Union.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So we got in, and then we got out because of the war between the states.
Right.
We sided with the South. Right. And number one thing that a lot of people don't know, but local folks do. Musician Phil Collins, British, right? Is he British?
Yes.
Okay. Was named an honorary Texan. Now, see, that to me is far greater an accolade than being the third Viscount of Tenby.
There you go.
That's true. That's true.
No offense, Mr. George, just saying. Honorary Texan in 2015, after he donated $100 million in rare Alamo artifacts to the Alamo Mission in San Antonio, prompting the museum to create an exhibit to house his items. That's quite a thing. I mean, you know, that's a huge contribution of Alamo artifacts from a non-Texan and a non-U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
That's somebody that the way we fend for liberty, et cetera, has really struck a chord. You know, it's touched somebody, and that's why I, for one, feel so very strongly about getting the word out there on what's going to go on. We're just about out of time, but the reason we do this, folks, is not self-serving Texans. It's proud Americans, proud Texans, trying to help the world to understand what this tiny little former mission in downtown San Antonio means to the world. And as such, it needs to be protected as is. Not glorified, not surrounded with glass, not, you know, where you got to put a credit card into an ATM machine to get in and out of. I mean, it needs to stay like it is. It needs taking care of, but it doesn't need reimagining.
That's right.
It doesn't need enhancing. It doesn't need the statues around the outside that have been erected over the last 100 years moved to a place of less prominence because they're in the way of putting up some sort of a fancy-ass wall. Okay, I mean, that's all it amounts to. I'm sorry. I don't often stand in the way of progress, but this is not progress.
That's right.
This is not reimagining, it's reinventing the Alamo. It was a hard fought loss, actually. But we lost the battle in order to win the war. And I don't want us to lose the war because we're not paying attention to what's going on. That's why I'm... Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.